It has been 88 years since the inception of the National Council of Negro Women Incorporated. The vision of our founder, Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune, is as relevant today. NCNW has made major contributions to monumental milestones in the growth and success of our country, the United States of America. Despite the obstacles that we are forced to deal with as African American women, we thrive, we excel, we forever move forward. Our leadership has always been at the forefront of every issue. We have fought for women's right to vote and been an integral part of the civil rights movement. And today, we are poised to the charge of the modern social justice movement. Join with us as we begin the new era of NCNW.
When Mary McLeod Bethune founded the National Council of Negro Women in 1935, for 7 years, she operated the National Council of Negro Women out of her home. It was 7 years later when we had our first staff, and it was only under the leadership of Dorothy Height, when she assumed the presidency, that we hired our very first executive director, Janetta Brown. And we were an organization then of 2 full-time staff people and 1 part-time person.
So NCNW is an amazing organization that has done so many wonderful things through Mary McLeod Bethune. I could go through the whole list, and ending with Dr. Daly before Dr. Keith. It's amazing, but it has to be relevant in each decade. It's necessary for the organization to operate in the context of the time. And things have changed since the time of even Dr. Height. And the way organizations work have changed. So we looked into the necessity of changing the organization after Dr. Janetta Cole served as the chair and had her own personal experience in that position.
And I guess the other thing was to move the whole organization in terms of a new structural design for NCNW, and that was quite a task. That was voted on in January of 2022 during the last 2 meetings of Dr. Cole's term, which meant that I had to see that process through, get the whole country, whole membership to buy into it. At the convention, there was not a disgruntled word about the change. There was not a single vote against the bylaw changes.
Dr. Dorothy Height used to always say that if the times aren't ripe, then we have to ripen the times. And so for this board, in 2023, it was time for us yet again to ripen the times to meet the new challenges of this century. We needed a board that was really going to focus on not only its fiduciary obligations, as a board must do, that we were making sure that the legacy and the history of the National Council of Negro Women was carried on into the future. Much has changed, but much is still the same.
Marrying the past and the future of NCNW, quite frankly, sits in the seat that's before you. I am someone who's sandwiched between a number of generations that are actually coming together under one umbrella we call NCNW. You know, you cannot actualize a future you want to see without understanding your past. Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune was a progressive in her time. She was able to see the magnitude of women coming together to change systems. And this was in a time where Black women especially were never welcome at decision-making tables. And that leadership allowed her and her predecessor to be able to create this organization. But the future is bright. We must evolve with the changing times.
Well, I always said to the board, to the leadership, I've said to the leadership, every meeting you had, you should always underscore the word perpetuity. And if we're not looking at perpetuity, we are not looking at this organization existing. I realize now that NCNW is being viewed, in fact, during my tenure, I was there with the so-called major African-American civil rights leaders, meeting with them. So we are viewed as one of the major civil rights organizations in the country.
And people talk now about black girl magic. I was in the room when President Biden was having a conversation about whether or not to put a black woman on the Supreme Court, whether or not to put a black woman on the ticket with him. And of course, some of us made it pretty clear, yeah, Mr. Biden, we need each other.
During this time, being named the first president and CEO inside of this new infrastructure is, I will say, a surreal experience. I had the opportunity to study and learn about Mary McLeod Bethune, about Dr. Height, and having a connection to a number of the past presidents and chairs. But in this time, when the organization made a very difficult but yet necessary decision to change infrastructures, I will have to tell you, I was surprised. I was sending in names myself to help find the next president and CEO.
Well, I think that NCNW will be a player. And why do I say that? I say that because the country is in trouble. And it's in trouble because all of the parts of our society are not working together that well. NCNW has had a background of working with people on similar issues, irrespective of their race, irrespective of their religion and their status in life. So that I believe this organization, under the leadership, the new leadership, I believe that people will feel very comfortable coming to the organization to help solve problems without having to deal with the ego of an organization that has all of the answers.
I think the sky's the limit. I think we have crept, if it's a mile journey, we've gone about a quarter mile in the journey toward what it was when Dr. Height was leading and Dr. Bethune were leading NCNW. But there are rivers to cross.
The synergy between the board and our new administration is key. One of the most important things to me before even taking this position was understanding how will the board work with the new administration. Dr. A. Lois Keith has committed to being the leader of governance practice and ensuring fiscal sustainability of NCNW. Her leadership and leadership style has been put in place to ensure that our membership has excellent models in place to be able to put forth out our priorities. Well, the new opportunity in our infrastructure allows the president and CEO to be the face. One of the main reasons why I know I was brought to NCNW was because of the advocacy. Our seat at the civil rights table is now a seat set in stone. We are going to be engaging in policy, we're going to be engaging in programming, but also solidifying this infrastructure in a way that keeps us not only solvent, but sustainable for decades to come.
When I think about the skills, the talents, the gifts of Shavon Arline-Bradley, it's so important in a chief executive officer of any organization to have three really basic core skill sets. One, they must be a real leader, but a leader who understands what it means to lead with your values. Secondly, a chief executive officer must have great executional abilities. They must have the ability to focus on the operational needs, the management infrastructure of any organization. And thirdly, a chief executive officer must have executive presence. They must be able to communicate the vision and the ideals and the goals of an organization and help enroll its stakeholders in that vision?
Well, you know, I could just give you a phrase, and that phrase is, she cares. So it's obvious that she has an amazing background, and she's worked in all kinds of organizations. And she has a Rolodex and now all of the lists and social media. But what made her special for us was that she understood the role that NCNW can play in this decade. And she had the proper skills to lead the organization. We found that people related to her, that she communicated well how much she did care about what happened to African Americans and their families.
During this time, being named the first president and CEO inside of this new infrastructure is, I will say, a surreal experience. I will say this, as you think about the National Council of Negro Women, depending on your age bracket, it may mean something different to you. I'm a Generation X, someone who is born in the 70s, raised and reared in the 80s and 90s, had my collegiate days during that time. And NCNW, from my experience, was always about the work that was done under the leadership of Dr. Height and the work that was done about really bringing in organizations together. When I came into the seat, the first thing that I realized was that we have to streamline our process and streamline our work. Now, if you're looking at revitalizing programs, NCNW is known for serving the community, but we have a number of programs that many in this country don't even know. I'm here to help us not only revitalize those programs, but bring resources to ensure our programs are longstanding. For decades now, NCNW has stood the test of time, but that never came without challenges to our finances. My goal is to solidify infrastructure with ensuring that we have not only membership support, but also partnerships that are new, that are fresh, and then reclaiming partnerships that we may have lost. NCNW is opening our arms to you. There are skills and leadership opportunities that are in place that are just missing those of you that are out there. We are connected and relevant to young people because NCNW creates space not only for community service, but also to advance your leadership opportunities. We here at NCNW believe that young women are going to be positioned to be the next leaders. I believe the next Kamala Harris might be an NCNW member. I believe the next neurosurgeon, the next lawyer, the next judge might be sitting in one of our college sections. But how do I know we're relevant? Because we also provide intergenerational opportunities. You'll be able to sit and meet with some of the leading women voices in sectors all over the country. Healthcare leaders, legal leaders, those that are in political spaces. NCNW is a relevant place, open to have your gifts right here at this table. Our opportunity is in stone now. We are together, pulling all of our resources together, but also relying on our membership to sound the alarm. NCNW is here.